Brother, listen to this truth directly. When a woman cheats, she's rarely exposed through interrogation. She's exposed through changes in behavior. Men often make the mistake of trying to question their way to the truth, while the truth is already visible in how she behaves day to day. Women do not need to confess. Their bodies and their behavior will speak for them. After being intimate with you, if things start to feel different, fewer messages, less initiative, avoiding eye contact, conversations becoming distant, or a sudden, unexplained sense of guardedness, that is not a coincidence. That is a shift in behavior after intimacy, when her emotions or attachment are no longer fully centered on you. This change does not require her to do anything obviously wrong. A change in energy alone is enough to recognize it. And here, I want you to remember something extremely important. The unease you feel is not weakness. It is not something you imagined. And it is not a lack of confidence. It is intuition. And male intuition is designed to detect inconsistencies between words and behavior. When she says, everything is fine, but her actions grow cold, closed off, or disconnected, your body recognizes it before your mind does. The problem is that many men silence this warning. They try to believe words instead of reality. Brother, I am not telling you this so you distrust women. I am telling you so you look in the right place. A clear-minded man does not need to check phones, does not need to interrogate, does not need to catch anyone in the act. He only needs to observe behavior and trust the change his intuition is signaling to him. When you understand that behavior always tells the truth more than words, we need to go one step deeper, because before a woman even manages to lie with her mouth, her body has already betrayed her. This is where many men look away, even though the signs are right in front of them. The first sign you need to observe is a patterned avoidance of sex, not 1 or 2 times because of fatigue, stress, or health, but a repeated pattern. Intimacy gradually decreases. The reasons constantly change, yet the outcome is always the same. Emotional and physical distance keeps growing. The key detail is the feeling that comes with it. The natural ease is gone. The relaxation is gone. The sense of being at home in intimacy disappears. When desire is systematically withdrawn, it is not because the body is weak, but because the mind is in conflict with the behavior. The second sign is more subtle, but extremely important: rushing to shower, avoiding contact, avoiding eye contact after intimacy, or when seeing you. She may turn her face away, avoid prolonged hugging, dislike being touched, or become stiff during physical contact. This is not random. In psychology, this phenomenon is linked to what is called cognitive dissonance. When a person does something that conflicts with the image they want to believe about who they are, the body reacts first. It produces avoidant behavior to reduce internal guilt. To put it plainly, the body is trying to create a safe distance. That distance allows her to avoid facing your gaze, and also to avoid facing herself. This is a deeply instinctive mechanism. No thinking, no planning. The body rejects first, before the mind can search for explanations. And, brother, remember this principle. A person with nothing to hide does not need to protect their body from their partner's gaze. When the body closes off, when touch becomes awkward, when closeness becomes something to avoid, that is the moment you must stop listening to words and start trusting what is happening right in front of you. When the body has already begun creating distance to protect itself, the next thing that becomes clearly visible is body language. From this point forward, the issue is no longer purely physical. It has shifted into a deeper psychological layer. The third sign you need to observe is avoiding eye contact, defensive posture, and visible tension when she is near you. She may look away when you look straight at her, cross her arms, lean her body away, or become unusually stiff when you sit close to her. What matters is this. This is not ordinary emotional coldness. This is a shame to be repeatedly triggered. When someone carries something that conflicts with the self-image they want to maintain, the brain treats the presence of the directly affected person as psychological pressure. More plainly put, your presence forces her to confront what she is actively trying to avoid. In behavioral psychology, this appears through what are called micro-avoidance patterns. These are not large, obvious actions, but a dense sequence of very small, very quick avoidant behaviors. Turning the head away slightly earlier than normal, avoiding eye contact for a few seconds, shifting seating position, maintaining extra distance during conversation. These behaviors are not premeditated. They cannot be performed perfectly because they originate from the reflexive parts of the brain. When the brain processes your presence as a moral threat, the body automatically responds to reduce internal pressure. Brother, at this stage, you do not need to ask any additional questions, no explanations, no forcing the truth out. You simply sit back and observe. When body language consistently avoids, when tension appears every time you are near, your instincts are doing exactly what they are designed to do. Do not try to override reality with words. Let the small signals communicate what no one wants to say out loud. When these small avoidance behaviors become a familiar state, you will begin to feel an even clearer shift, no longer vague, no longer subtle. The emotional temperature flattens and then changes direction. This is the turning point where many men feel that something is wrong, yet cannot name it. The fourth sign is the transition from warmth to neutrality, and then gradually into irritation. At first, she's no longer enthusiastic during conversations. Then her tone becomes flat and emotionally empty. And then, mild irritation appears, not shouting, not explosive arguments, just curt replies, sighs, expressions of annoyance with no clear reason. This is not because you did something specifically wrong. What confuses you is that you are still the same person, yet the way she treats you has completely changed. At this point, you are no longer perceived as a partner. You begin to be treated like a coexisting presence, familiar, but no longer emotionally connected. Care disappears. Gentleness fades. In its place is a cold emotional distance. Recent psychological research links this to a mechanism called emotional re-anchoring. After intimacy, when a person's emotions are no longer stably anchored to the same individual, the brain temporarily re-anchors those emotions elsewhere to maintain internal balance. And during that process, the person closest to them becomes the most convenient outlet for pressure. What you need to understand is this: the irritation is not always truly about you. It is a form of internal psychological self-punishment being projected outward. When there is internal conflict, when one's actions clash with their self-image, that pressure needs an exit. And a former partner, or the person standing right in front of them, becomes the easiest target. So remember this line: she is not angry at you. She cannot tolerate the version of herself that exists in that moment. Brother, at this stage, men often try to do more, care more, compromise more, love more, but that is the wrong reflex. Emotional temperature does not drop because of a lack of effort. It drops because of her internal conflict. And once you understand this, you will stop blaming yourself and begin to look at the relationship with clarity and calm awareness. When the emotional temperature has cooled, when you are being treated more like a cohabiting presence than a partner, another deeper layer begins to surface. This is the place very few men want to look directly at, but it is also the clearest missing piece: the phone. The fifth sign does not lie in whether she hides her phone or refuses to let you see it. Those are surface-level behaviors. What you need to observe is her emotional attachment to the phone. Her eyes light up when a notification arrives, the instant reflex to check the screen. Her mind is drifting away even while you're sitting right in front of her. The phone is no longer a tool, it becomes a new emotional anchor. When the phone vibrates, the body reacts before thought. Heart rate shifts. Attention is pulled out of the present moment. This is not an unconscious habit. This is a biological response. In behavioral neuroscience, this phenomenon is linked to what is called dopamine loop attachment. When a new source of stimulation appears, the brain creates a powerful dopamine loop strong enough to override guilt. Every message, every notification, every moment of anticipation reinforces that connection. And what matters is this: that loop does not require physical contact to form. The brain does not distinguish between physical cheating and attentional betrayal. It only tracks where emotional energy is flowing. Gradually, the phone becomes a psychological refuge. When she is next to you, she feels pressure. When she looks at the phone, she feels relief. Wherever stress is reduced, the brain assigns priority. And so your presence is pushed into the background, while another connection is quietly nurtured day by day. Brother, see this clearly. This is not harmless curiosity. This is emotional bonding in formation. Cheating today does not only happen in bed, it begins in the field of attention. When emotion, anticipation, and energy are no longer directed toward the person standing in front of her, the relationship has already cracked at its foundation. And a clear-minded man is the one who recognizes this before silently losing his own value. When the field of attention has already been pulled elsewhere, when the phone has become the new emotional anchor, another shift appears almost immediately. Schedules become chaotic, while words become perfect. This is the mask many people believe can conceal the truth, but in reality, it exposes it with clarity. The sixth sign lies in time gaps paired with excessive explanation. Time disappears without a clear reason. Schedules change constantly. There are evenings and time blocks in which you no longer exist, yet whenever you ask, the answer flows smoothly. Too logical, too complete, too safe. She recounts every minor detail, every person present, every irrelevant context as if she's narrating the story to reassure herself rather than to inform you. In psychology, this phenomenon is called narrative overcompensation. When someone knows their story contains gaps, they unconsciously add detail to self-soothe. Instead of moving directly toward the truth, they construct a narrative that blankets every potential suspicion. And the irony is this: the more they speak, the smoother the story becomes, the less the emotional signals align. The voice sounds unnatural. The eyes do not settle. The body carries subtle tension even though the story appears reasonable. The brain has to work overtime to prevent the script from collapsing. Brother, remember this. People who tell the truth do not need to rehearse. They do not need to remember what they said yesterday in order to repeat it correctly today. They do not need to create a safe version of the truth. Someone who speaks the truth does not need to remember what they said. When time gaps grow larger while explanations become more and more perfect, that is when you should stop listening to the story itself and return to observing the emotion behind the words. Because truth does not live at the level of logic, it lives at the level of naturalness. And no lie can exist for long without leaving traces of fatigue in the behavior and emotional state of the person trying to hide it. When you have seen the full picture body language, eye contact, emotional temperature, field of attention, schedules, and words, this is the most critical moment. Not to accuse, not to control, but to make a decision aligned with the character of a clear-minded man. Brother, all the signs you have just heard do not exist to turn you into a police officer in a relationship. The goal was never to control women. The goal is to preserve your self-respect and inner peace. When you observe long enough, listen deeply enough, and verify through behavior rather than words, the truth will stand in front of you without force. And when the truth is clear, a strong man does not act in impulsive emotion. He decides in calm clarity. Remember this action framework. First, do not interrogate when emotions are high, because answers given in that state only push things off course. Second, do not dismiss your intuition when it repeats itself, because intuition is accumulated data, not a fleeting feeling. Third, do not trade your dignity for a false sense of peace, where you must pretend to believe what you know deep down is not true. Real peace does not come from keeping someone by your side, it comes from not betraying yourself. Brother, the truth does not come to hurt you. It arrives to test whether you're strong enough to face it, clear enough not to deceive yourself, and grounded enough to walk the right path. When you choose character over clinging, you lose nothing. You're simply opening the path to a more solid version of yourself, and a life that truly deserves you.